Sayyidina Hazrat Abu Sulaiman Darani, Rahmatullahi Ta'ala, stated that once I was riding on a donkey and I hit the donkey 2 or 3 times. The donkey lifted its head, looked towards me and he said, "Oh Abu Sulaiman, there will be accountability on the day of judgment for hitting me. Now it is up to you. You hit me more or you hit me less." I then said, from now on, I will never hit that animal again. And again, in this particular waqi, you see that when you hit an animal, you're going to be held accountable for it on the day of judgment. And nowadays we see in streets where children, when they're kicking dogs and kicking cats and, messing about with animals, and they think they're being funny and doing these sort of things. But this again is a sin. To show mercy to animals is what we should also be doing. We should not be cruel to animals. In the same way, back in Pakistan and India, people buy animals and they bring them home, yeah? Again, that doesn't happen here. But if you're in that situation, you need to look after that animal, feed that animal, look after that animal rather than dragging it here and being cruel to it and hitting it and riding it and causing all sorts of pain to the animal. But we're not in that position here. But at the same time, we need to show mercy to animals. Generally, we need to show mercy to animals. Once Hazrat Abdullah ibn Umar, radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, walked past some youngsters of Quraysh who had tied a bird and were making it a target by throwing arrows towards it. When they saw Abdullah bin Umar radiyallahu ta'ala coming towards them, they began to disperse. He said, "Who has done this? May Allah Azza wa Jal curse those who do these types of acts. Verily, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has cursed that person who plays archery by making a living thing the target." And again, you see children that there's a cat, they might tie up a cat, they might tie up a dog, and from a distance they're throwing stones at this animal. This is cruelty. This is cruelty to animals, and the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has forbid this. This is the beautiful deen of Islam, that not only does it say do not be cruel to each other, but the deen of Islam says don't be cruel to animals as well. But again, we don't care. Sayyidina Hazrat Abdullah bin Masud radiyallahu ta'ala stated, we were once traveling with the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he went for the call of nature. We saw a sparrow who had 2 baby sparrows. So we grabbed them. The sparrow came and began to flap its wings. So basically, they gathered the baby sparrow out of the nest, and the mother was flapping its wings, panicking. And the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw this and he said, "Who has caused the sparrow inconvenience in the matter of his baby sparrows? Return his baby sparrows to it." The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then he also saw a hole of ants that we had burned. There was ants there, and they had set fire so that the ants would go away. And the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Do not do this. Other than Allah Azza wa Jal, the owner of fire, no one is allowed to hurt anyone or anything by means of fire." Little ants. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam cared for them. The baby in the nest, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam cared for it. Whereas when we see ants and we see these things and we're squashing them and killing them and getting them out of the way, and if any animal comes in our garden, if any cat comes in our garden or our yard, we get the stone out and we're throwing it at that animal. If there's a bird there that we don't like, we throw it out because it can't come near our plants and it'll ruin our plants. And we're throwing stones at the animal and hurting that animal. This is against the Sunnah of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We should try to stop those who are cruel to animals by following the seerah of our pious predecessors. And if we see anyone being cruel, we should try and stop them according to our ability. Nowadays we see people hitting cats and dogs and all these stuff, and we should try and stop it. Because part of your iman is when you see something wrong, trying to stop it. Trying to stop something is part of your iman. If you see someone doing something wrong, you should try and stop it. Whatever it is, not just being cruelty to animals, but anything. If you see something doing something wrong, then try and stop it. If you cannot stop it with your hand, then try and stop it with a letter by send the person a message and say, brother, I saw you being cruel to that cat. Please don't be cruel to that cat in the future. And if your iman is not that strong, then at least in your heart think, that what this person is doing is wrong. What this person is doing is wrong. He should not be cruel to his animals. And we're told that this is the weakest iman, but unfortunately, we don't even think that that person is doing wrong. It's okay, it's only an animal. It's only a cat, it's only a dog. What's wrong with it? Yeah, and pick up a stone and I'll throw one as well. We don't even think that it's wrong to hurt an animal. Even though we are allowed to bring up animals, rear animals, where people have pets in their houses, you're allowed to do that. But even then, you cannot be cruel to animals. You must feed them, you must give them water and drink and make sure. You hear many stories of people having animals that they've left locked up. Right? They've gone on a holiday for 2 weeks and they leave their animal at home and the animal starves. They don't care. This is being cruel and we shouldn't be doing like this.
We love Madani Channel. We love Madani Channel. We love Madani Channel.